I didn't know that all of y'all were out here just living your best lives, able to do tasks. And the entire time I was out here fighting for my life. Hi. We're switching the style up a little bit today. Change of environment, you know what I'm saying? I decided to talk to y'all today about my journey with ADHD, how I got diagnosed, how I thought to go in for a test, what the process has been like, what my meds are like, all of those things. So hopefully this won't be too long-winded, but let's get into it. Okay, so first, as a child, I had issues focusing. I talked to my parents recently about that, and they basically were like, yeah, like we knew you always had an issue focusing, and your teachers used to actually tell us, oh, she has a problem focusing, but like no one ever thought, oh, it's ADHD. Obviously, ADHD has evolved in a lot of ways in the medical field, in the ways that people see it psychologically. A lot of times it was overdiagnosed in men and underdiagnosed in women, and women's ADHD symptoms tend to look differently than men's. So yeah, as a kid, I always did have issues focusing, particularly when it got to middle school. Like when I was going through puberty and I was trying to like do school, that shit was not a vibe. It was not a vibe. It was not working for me on a number of levels. And I actually went through middle, high school, and college all without a diagnosis. Went to middle school, went to high school, did all of that, did pretty well, you know. Went to college, had a way better time in college, had a much easier time, much easier go at it in college. And that was when I was actually introduced to Adderall. So college is college, you already know what's going on. I recreationally took Adderall, not realizing I was ADHD, and that was actually a med I would end up taking for real in my later life. But I remember taking it and being like, wow, this is how I think my brain is supposed to work, which was really interesting. And I did kind of take it on and off through college, but I wasn't on it consistently. And, you know, obviously I didn't have kind of a regimen. So it was like I was kind of just like winging it. Then I became an adult and I struggled through adulthood. I struggled through like establishing my career, and I genuinely thought I might have ADHD for a while, for a while. But then I really started to think about it and pay attention to it around 2020, which is funny because I feel like a lot of things that weren't in people's views of themselves or that they maybe didn't consider before, I feel like 2020 was the year that a lot of people were like, oh shit, like I'm realizing maybe this applies to me and I never thought about that, or, you know, things like that. I started to think more deeply about what ADHD was. And I think also with the rise of TikTok and having more ADHD TikTokers, I started being like, oh wait, like those are symptoms that I suffer from. Or like, oh wait, like I thought that was normal and I'm realizing that it's not normal. And I didn't know that all of y'all were out here just living your best lives, able to do tasks. And the entire time I was out here fighting for my life. 2020 was kind of my wake-up call, and then I still, though, didn't get diagnosed until 2022. I was living in Texas still, and I went to the doctor to get diagnosed. Back then, I took the entire computer test, where you have the thing on your forehead, the sensor on your forehead, and you sit down at the computer, and it shows you things, and you have to look at it and shit. It was like an hour long or something like that. It was excruciating, obviously, because I have ADHD, so it was a lot going on. But that was the beginning of my diagnosis. But funny enough, I got diagnosed then. It was weird because it was Texas and they were like, we can give you medications, but non-stimulant. And like, there were just a bunch of hoops to jump through. And at the time, I was also very much planning my move back to the East Coast. And so I was like, you know what? At least I have this diagnosis. And then life got in the way and I have ADHD, so you already know. At least I knew I was diagnosed. I actually have the ADHD where it's like I'm both inattentive and hyperactive. Both of them, which makes sense in my life. It's funny because after I got my diagnosis, just some anecdotal stories, right? So I was talking to some of my college friends, and I distinctly remember one of my college friends being like, of course you have ADHD. You used to be in college, writing your paper, talking to us, hosting friends, rolling a blunt, pouring a drink, filling up your water bottle, doing another like, of course. And I was like, dang. Nobody told me that would have been helpful if I had maybe thought about that as a possibility. So I got diagnosed in 2022. Months passed, nothing really came of it. And then summer of 2022, I moved back to New York City. And that is when I started talking about my ADHD more openly, and a girl that had also just moved here sent me the name of her doctor, and she was like, yo, I also just got diagnosed and medicated. Here is my doctor. Now, mind you, at this point, I had been diagnosed but not medicated. So I was still raw dogging life. And yeah, just finding coping mechanisms, trying to caffeinate myself, etc. In New York, I went and I got tested again because for some reason, my test from Texas, I don't know, there was some issue with getting it or something, and it was a different test. So when I tested in New York, I did a verbal test with my primary care. We went through all the questions. All of them were pretty much applied to me, which I already kind of knew based off of the other tests I had had. And that was the beginning of my medication journey. So I started on, I believe, 10 milligrams instant release of Adderall, and then I bumped it up to 15 milligrams instant release, and then it got to a point where I kind of go day to day. It's very dependent, day to day, week to week, month to month. So now I take 5 milligram instant releases, and then I have 15 milligram extended releases, which extended releases last longer through the day. So my problem was that I was taking my Adderall at 9 a.m. and I was feeling the crash at 2, 3 p.m. And so my doctor was honestly like, I wish I could put you on Vyvanse, because apparently Vyvanse is better for that. It's less crash, it's less jittery, and it's longer lasting. But apparently, for some reason, insurance doesn't cover Vyvanse, so it's mad expensive, which is so stupid. And I have PPO insurance, I have very good insurance, so the fact that they don't cover it, it's giving, what the fuck is going on? But anyway, say all that to say, I got medicated, kind of played around with what medication looked like for me. Again, like I said, it's really day to day, week to week, month to month. But one thing for me is I do not take my Adderall every day. I do not take it on weekends, and I try to stagger it every other day of the week if I have to take it, throughout the entire week. I really, really try to have maybe 2 out of the 5 work days where I take it, if less, because it's a lot. It's a stimulant. It completely takes away my appetite. And, being transparent and candid, I do suffer from an eating disorder, and I'm currently in recovery for it, which is amazing, and I'm very thankful for recovery. And it has been a long road being in recovery and having an eating disorder, specifically anorexia, and having your entire hunger drive taken away. I don't get hungry, pretty much. I'm actually food averse most days when I take my Adderall, and I have to force myself to eat in the morning before I take it, because there's a chance once I take it, I'm not going to eat at all. Sometimes, though, depending on how much I take that day, I am able to eat small snacks through the day, or eat periodically through the day. But it's just hard to know how I'm going to feel. Those first couple months acclimating were a bit rough. I was really food averse. I was also getting a bit nauseous because I was not eating before taking it. So I would just be raw dogging the morning with nothing in my stomach, and then taking Adderall, and then not eating for another 8 hours. Not good, not advisable. Do not suggest that at all. Please eat before you take your meds. It is very, very important. Your body needs fuel. And as I've gotten older, I feel like this is a blessing in disguise. I cannot not eat the way I used to. If I don't eat now, it takes more of a toll on my body now versus before. I could go days without eating anything. Anyway, not to trigger anyone. I will put a trigger warning in here for ED because I think that's important. So I've been medicated as of, I think it was like March of 2023. It's now 2025. So I've been medicated for a year and some change, almost 2 years. And I really do think getting medicated did change my life. It allowed me to build self-trust because now I know that when I say I'm going to do a task, I'm actually going to get it done, which is a big thing. It's obviously helped with my executive dysfunction. If you don't know, executive dysfunction is something that ADHD people face. It's honestly really hard and really shameful, and I think it's something that we need to talk about more because it's basically the idea that like you cannot force yourself to get out of bed or make yourself take a shower or make yourself detangle your hair, brush your hair, do your hair, get up to get ready for the day. And it's literally like you'll be sitting there and your brain will be telling you to do these things and you will not be able to get up and do them. And it is the most bizarre thing I've ever experienced in my life, but it is very much a thing. And I have had to deal with that, and being medicated has completely changed my life in that way, in terms of me being able to function day to day. And again, right, I think that circles back to that kind of self-trust. In turn, self-love. I think it's allowed me to love myself more because I'm building more of that self-trust, and I think because I'm able to face some of that shame and that guilt of that executive dysfunction and realize that it's not me. Like, that's not me, you know? Like, it is me, but I think it was a big step for me to realize that, oh, this is what ADHD is causing me to do. Instead of me thinking I was just lazy, etc., all of those things that you tell yourself when you don't quite understand why your brain isn't functioning the way you want it to. Getting medicated has allowed me to dismantle a lot of that shame and a lot of that frustration, and I'm very thankful for that because it's given me a way to really be more in tune with myself. I also think it's helped me to be more in tune with my body. I'm more of an intuitive eater now. Also has something to do with my recovery as well, and I'm very thankful for that. And intuitive eating has changed my life as well. If y'all want me to talk about that in a different video, let me know. I would love to talk about that. But I think it just allows me to tap into my body more. I'm more aware of where I'm at. Am I dehydrated? I can tell because of this, this, and this. Do I need to, to eat? Have I eaten yet? Like, how does my body feel? Am I crashing? Am I coming down? Is my brain am I really tired? Do I need to go to sleep? That being medicated has allowed me to check in with my body more and be more conscious of those feelings. Obviously, the biggest kind of benefits of medication for someone who has ADHD, which is actually being able to focus and complete a task. That has been big for me. I've been able to complete tasks straight through, where I'm not taking 8 hours to circle back and back and back and back and back. It's like, no, I'm actually starting the task and finishing it an hour and a half later, and then closing that book and going to another task, instead of having 5 tasks that are just kind of in different percentages of complete, and then ending the day feeling guilty and shameful about not completing anything on my to-do list because I've done a little bit of everything but haven't finished anything. That has been huge for me. Even though Adderall isn't a drug like SSRIs or anything that kind of you acclimate to and stay in your system, I do feel like if I take Adderall, for example, on a Monday, Tuesday, I'm still kind of feeling those effects of the Adderall, and I tend to have a higher drive for motivation, and I tend to be able to get up easier. That's another benefit of Adderall that's been big for me, is if I take Adderall the day before and I go to sleep, even if I go to sleep late, I wake up and I'm not tired, which is very lit. Very lit. But yeah, so some of those effects, and maybe that's just my body as well. My body is very sensitive to medications and substances in general, so I'm very aware of that. Again, if I take Adderall on a Monday and then I wake up on Tuesday, I do still feel some of those effects, which is also why I try to kind of stagger it, because if I'm still feeling the effects Tuesday, then I can typically ride that out and not medicate again. And then Wednesday, when it kind of feels like everything is out of my system, then I kind of, go back and take more meds. I am still learning. I am still refining. I am still figuring out what works for me. Overall, I'm very, very glad that I went on the journey and I stuck through it which was hard enough. Because if you have ADHD, it's hard to even persist through getting medicated. It's also difficult to get medicated for controlled substances because they will make you legitimately jump through the biggest hoops for no reason. And I get it, but also like, hello, I am here. You know I have ADHD. I'm just trying to get medication that will help me function. The fact that I have to go into the office every 3 months and I have to check my vitals and do all of this and give me a prior authorization just to get meds that I have literally been prescribed for the last year and a half. Like, the amount of hoops you have to jump through to get medication, I will say, it depends person to person, but it might be a lot. And so just be prepared to have to kind of fight through that and go through that journey, because there was an Adderall shortage. And then at one point, literally, I had to call like 5 pharmacies to find my meds. And then I was calling my doctor back and forth. Like, it has been a journey. Okay? And I probably should have said that before. The medication journey may be long, but please stick through it. Yeah. That is the long and short version of my ADHD journey. If you want any more info, or if you have questions, please drop them in the comments. I would love to talk to more people about it and talk more about it. And let me know what else you would like me to talk about. And I will see y'all soon. I love you. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're living your best life. And we will chat soon.